Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parsha Shir. As I mentioned last week, we've completed our entire year cycle of studying Sefer Nesivos Shalom, and this week with Parshas Vayera, we begin the study of a new Sefer. I thought this year we could study the Sefer Maayan Beit Hashoeva, which is the Parsha Sefer of Rav Shimon Schwab. Rav Shimon Schwab was born in Germany, raised in Frankfurt. He attended the Hirschian school in Frankfurt, and he studied under Rav Shlomo Breuer, who was the son-in-law of Rav Hirsch. Eventually went on to study in the Eastern European yeshivas, in the Telz yeshiva, and the Mir yeshiva. Was a rabbi in Bavaria for a while, then came to America, to Baltimore, and then eventually made his way up in 1958 to Washington Heights as he was invited by Rav Joseph Breuer, Rav Hirsch's grandson, who established the KAJ, Breuer's community in Washington Heights in America. He was invited by Rav Breuer to help him as a second in command and leadership of the community. Eventually, as Rav Breuer became more aged and infirmed, Rav Schwab took over more of the responsibilities of the Kehila, of the Rav of the Kehila, of the Rosh Yeshiva, and continue on into that position after Rav Breuer passed away. Rav Schwab is a fascinating personality with much to say about him. We could have many shiurim just on who Rav Schwab was and what his philosophies about Torah im Derech Eretz were and the philosophies of Hirschian school of study. But for the moment, we'll just leave it as that. He's a fascinating personality who wrote an interesting commentary on Chumash. We'll try to do, these are shorter pieces than Nesivos Shalom. We'll try to do at least one, if not two pieces each week on the Parsha. Small ideas with the hope and the goal that as opposed to Nesivos Shalom, who develops very broad philosophical ideas, perhaps with Maayan Beit Hashoeva, you could take home one or two ideas every week that perhaps you could share with others around the Shabbos table or in other forums where you speak to people about the Parsha. Two comments Rav Schwab makes on some of the interactions surrounding the Akedah mentioned this week's Parsha. The Pasuk says, "Vayikra elav malach Hashem min hashamayim, vayomer Avraham, Avraham, vayomer hineni, vayomer al tishlach yadcha el anar v'atas lo me'uma." That after Avraham Avinu was prepared to go through with the Akedah, a malach comes from Shemayim, calls out to him, and after he responds, Hineni, I am here, the malach tells him not to send forth his arm towards the Nar, towards Yitzchak, and not to go through with the experience of the Akedah. So Rav Schwab asks the million-dollar question that everyone asks on these psukim. Yesh lahavin, lama kshenitztave Avraham lakod es beno ksiv v'haelokim nisas Avraham vayomer elav. Why in the command to go forth with the Akedah, Hashem himself gives the command to Avram. Ha'elokim nisayat Avraham vayomer elav. Kadosh Baruch Hu be'atzmo diber el Avraham. Ulevasof ksheba tzivoy shelo lishloch yadcha el anar velo lasos lo me'uma ba b'davka al yedei malach. But when the command comes to hold back from performing the Akedah, it's not Hashem directly who comes to command Avram to hold his hand back. Rather, the command comes through a malach. V'chein lahalan, vayikra malach Hashem shenit, lo chasachta, spinchas, yechidcha. So too in the bracha that comes after the Akedah, the malach again reaches out to Avram to give him that bracha. So why is it God himself that commands the Akedah, but the malach that takes care of the stopping of the Akedah and the aftermath? So this is a fascinating answer, I think, with much to think about. Hine Amru Chazal. Chazal tell us, the Medrash, Toras Kohanim, various places, also brought by Rashi, Sha'afaro shel Yitzchak nira lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzavur umunach al gabei HaMizbeach. Based on the Gemara and other Midrashim, Rashi points out that at the moment of the Akedah, even though the Akedah never came to fruition, never actually happened, nevertheless, the image before the Kisei HaKavod, the image that God has of that experience happening down below, is that Yitzchak was brought up on the Mizbeach, Yitzchak was sacrificed, he was bound, he was sacrificed, and that the ashes of Yitzchak after the sacrifice were actually piled up before the Kisei HaKavod. It's as if he saw the Akedah come to fruition, even though in this world it never did so. V'habiur al pi ma'amar Ramzal. We can explain this ma'amar Chazal based on another Gemara in Brachos, where the Gemara tells us, Chishev Adam lasos mitzvah v'nenas v'lo asa, ma'le alav akasav kilu asa. when a person has the entire desire and plan to go forward with a mitzvah, and something unexpectedly and beyond their control interrupts them, they don't actually get to follow through and fulfill the mitzvah. Nevertheless, in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's as if the person fulfilled the mitzvah. Pirush, shekevan shenigmara ha-mitzvah b'koach, sharei gamer b'libo la'asosa, rak shelo yatza lepoel, machmas ikuvin tzedadim. Because the mitzvah, say Chazal, actually was fulfilled in potential, even though it didn't get actually fulfilled in reality, in actuality, harehi nidonis lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu kemitzvah gemura. It's judged before God and seen before God as if the mitzvah had been completely fulfilled. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at the koach, the potential, even though in our world we normally don't look at the potential, we look at the actualization, at the hotzah lopoa. V'abir bazeh hu sha'hevdel ben kiyum mitzvah b'koach leben kiyum mitzvah b'poel miskayim rak lefi hadas hamugbelas shel nivraim. What we learn from this Gemara is that the difference between koach and poel, between potential and actual, between the thought and the action, is a discrepancy that's only seen in our world because we are limited beings with a certain way of looking at things. We look at the world in a very black and white way. Either it did happen or it didn't happen. Either it only happened in thought or it also happened in action. We look at it that way. Not only do we look at it that way, but v'chein das hamalachim, l'rabos das hamalachim. The malachim also have this mugba, this limited, constricted view of the world. But before God, where there is no such thing as time, there's no such thing as actuality versus not actuality, the deed, if done bepoal, if done bekoach, if done in potential, if held in potential, if thought about and strategized and felt and planned, even though it didn't come to fruition, there is no difference for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He views it as if it's completely fulfilled. If it's done in potential, then before God is as if it's done in actuality as well. Therefore, the ashes of Yitzchak from the experience of the Akedah before God, as if they're piled up there before him, as if it actually happened, even though it only happened b'koach and not b'poel. Even though he was never shechted, he was never burned, he was never sacrificed, before God, it's as if it had totally come to fruition. He says, based on that, we can understand the answer to our question. Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the speaker voice at the beginning, before the Akedah, whereas the Malach is the speaker voice afterwards. The after the Akedah experience of communication was all through a Malach. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have been the one to come and say, stop, don't go through with the Akedah, it would have looked that as if the act of the Akedah was lacking something in terms of its fulfillment, which before God is not true. Before God, the act is completely fulfilled. Even though in our realm, in our human world, in our human understanding, it was only fulfilled in potential, but not in actuality. But from the Malach's perspective, like the human perspective, the act could have been stopped. And if it was stopped, it never came to fruition. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu couldn't come and say that, Al tishlach yadcha el hanar, because for him, the yad was already nishlach el hanar. It was already fulfilled. It was already done. The deed was done by virtue of the fact that Avram and Yitzchak had it in their mind. They had it in potential. It's only from the human or angelic perspective that they could look at the act and say it was not fulfilled. And therefore, the Malach was the one, at least the way we read the Torah, the Malach is the one who was sent by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to deliver the news that the Akedah shouldn't come to fruition. Because from the human and Malach perspective, the Akedah really was stopped. Whereas from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perspective, it was actually fulfilled since it was held there in potential. That's one idea. Another idea, interestingly, that Rosh Shua brings here, Maayan Beit Hashoeva, is on an earlier pasuk. The pasuk says, "Vayikach Avram et zaseh ha'olah, vayasem al Yitzchak beno." Avram takes the wood for the Akedah as they're on their way to the experience of the Akedah, and he puts it on top of Yitzchak, his son. Vayikach biyado es ha'esh v'es ha'mechelas. He takes in his hand all the implements that would be necessary in order to go through with the Akedah, namely the fire and the knife. Vayomer Yitzchak el Avram Aviv, and Yitzchak says to his father, he asks his father, what is exactly is going on? Vayomer Hinei ha'esh va'etzim va'yehaseh le'olah. He says, I see the fire, I see the wood, but where is the sacrifice? Where's the animal for the sacrifice? We can understand that seeing the fire and the wood is not necessarily indicator that they were going to an experience of an akedah, of a sacrifice in any way. One could possibly have wood and have fire in order to cook something along their way, along their journey. It could be used for other things. The proof that they were on their way to some kind of slaughter or sacrifice was the fact that Avram was carrying a knife. The fire and the wood was not necessarily a proof of anything. V'im ken, if that's true, we have a question. Lama shal Yitzchak rak ala eish va'etzim v'lo tava ala malachelas. Why did Yitzchak, when he asked his father, what's going on here? Where are we going? What exactly is happening? He only says, Hinei ha'esh va'etzim va'yaseh lo'olah. I see wood and I see fire, but where is the sacrifice? He didn't ask about the ma'achelas, which was the key indicator that they were going to do a sacrifice. So why is that left out of his question? V'nir lefarish, he says. So we can understand this by explaining the following way. Even Yitzchak understood as they were on their way to the Akedah that he was going to be sacrificed, that he was supposed to give up his life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's command. He was absolutely ready to give up his life for the sake of the commandment of God. Therefore, he didn't question the ma'achelas. He knew he was going to be sacrificed. He knew that the act was going to happen, or he thought it was going to happen. So he wasn't surprised, actually, by the view of the ma'achelas, by the view of the knife. But when he sees the fire and the wood, and he connected the sight of the wood and the fire to the sight of the ma'achelas, the knife, he connected the two acts. He realized that which would be shechted with the knife would also be offered on top of the mizbeach of the fire and the wood. That's what perplexed him. The fact that he saw the knife was not perplexing because, after all, he understood that this act of the Akedah was going to happen. The sight of the fire and the wood was not perplexing because, after all, he could imagine that they were going to cook something along the way. He could probably even have imagined that they were going to sacrifice an animal as part of this experience. What he didn't understand was the connection between them. As he sees the ma'achelas, something's going to be shechted, and he sees the wood and the fire, he connects the two. He says, what is shechted will ultimately be sacrificed. And I am the one that's going to be shechted, but I don't understand how I will be sacrificed. Shibarov an v'tanuto lo hamin shehu rawi lios korban ola al mizbeach. Because Yitzchak didn't believe he was worthy of being a korban ola on the mizbeach. He didn't realize that he was as perfect as the Kadosh Baruch Hu viewed him. To be a korban only, you have to be totally pure, totally rid of any imperfections. Any small defect is considered a mum. It's invalidating to the korban. Prevents that animal, that person, from being sacrificed before God. That's why he goes to his father with surprise and he says, I see the fire and the wood. What I see from the fact that you're carrying the knife and the wood and the fire is that the wood and the fire is going to be used to sacrifice that which you shecht with the ma'achelos, which I know is me. So therefore he asks, so where is the animal? I can't be that animal. I'm not that animal. I'm not worthy to be that animal. Of course, I'm not worthy of being sacrificed to korban olah. V'rak haseh efshar lahakriv la'ola v'nechshav kilu hikriv adam es adam lefanav atzmo lefanav. Only an animal can be sacrificed, and we can view ourselves as a replacement for the animal, as a replacement for us, as if we had sacrificed of ourselves on the mizbeach. That's why his father answers and he says, Elokim yirelo aseh la'ola b'nei. No, God is showing us who the proper seh la'ola is. Pirush hala kadosh baruch hu ma'atza omer she'ata ra'oi li'os ola k'mo haseh. It's God himself that's telling us you're worthy. Don't tell me you're not worthy. You are worthy. Of course, this never comes to fruition. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want Yitzchak to be sacrificed in any way. But in the thought process, as we lead up to the moment, we see something very interesting, which is as much as Yitzchak understood that he had to go through with this act, and then he had to totally be moser nefesh, totally devote himself to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and to the nth degree of giving up his life. Even at that point, he never let it go to his head. He never allowed himself to think of himself in the purest of forms as a sacrifice before God. He had the humility to understand, to not even realize that he could be the Korban Olah. I think it's something very sobering, that at the highest moment of greatest sacrifice that we can imagine in all of Jewish history, the moment of the Akedah, the quintessential sacrifice moment, Yitzchak never let that moment of closeness and the request of God to go through with this act ever get to his head. All the more so each of us, as we face our moments of great pride and great accomplishment, we can feel good about ourselves. We should feel good about ourselves. We should relish those opportunities to feel good about ourselves and to be able to truly appreciate our sense of accomplishment, but never let it go so much to our head that we consider ourselves to be perfect, because in this human world, there is no such thing as perfection. Shabbat Shalom.